Warning, 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 warning. 3, 2, 1. The FantasyFootballTips.co podcast with Mills and Quigliano.
Hi, you're listening to FantasyFootballTips.co, the podcast in association with Premier Punt, the daily fantasy sports betting site. Quigliano, game week 1 is over. How torturous was it? He's not speaking to me. I think he's waiting for something first. I think he's waiting for an apology. Quigliano, I'm going to start the podcast off and I'm going to do it right away and I'm going to say sorry.
And what are you sorry for?
I am sorry for not going with your backing of Coutinho. I put it out there on Twitter that I knew I was going to get harangued over this today. There are other things that went wrong for us. There are some things that went perfectly well.
Don't take away from the apology. You've started with a sorry. Don't try and ham anything else onto that apology with things that went well.
Look, it's a sorry. I didn't think Coutinho was going to do what he did. To be honest, neither did you probably after 85 minutes against Stoke.
With Bournemouth, the next fixture, tell me you've got to be worried.
I am even more worried now, yes, after seeing what he did. If you didn't listen to the last podcast, let's just paint the picture. We've got a podcast team, haven't we, Quigliano?
Yeah, we share it.
And this week, we managed 43 points, which, yes, it isn't fantastic, but it's certainly not as bad as some people. Put us in the top 10% in our own league. Considering that we share our league, our tips as well, and we share our team, probably a few copycats out there, possibly. I think top 10% is okay for the first week. But Quigliano, we discussed it on air in the last podcast, the team, didn't we? And listeners, Quigliano wanted Coutinho in there. I was very adamant that I didn't think Coutinho would perform, and of course he's gone and scored.
He scored a worldie, but we need to move on anyway. You've touched on something there, a few copycats, and I want to just address that, because Twitter's blowing up at the minute with people are actually playing the wild cards.
It's unbelievable. I cannot believe it.
Again, it's of the people that have played them, the only thing I admire about them is that it's your team and you get to do what you want. So a lot of players are whining, saying, I'm to put this player in my team, I was going to put that player in. You didn't, okay? It is your team, you have to make your own decisions and live with those. So we're going to give lots of advice throughout this season, but remember, it's got to be the players that you actually believe in as well.
I agree 100%. And what I think surprises me the most, looking at Twitter this week after game week 1, is the panic. Sheer panic from people who go, I've picked the wrong team, I don't know what I'm doing. It's one game week, and you can't expect these top players they don't score goals every single week.
Precisely. I mean, people are saying, which West Ham player do I need? Well, do you actually think West Ham are going to be up there all season? Because I don't. I actually think they're going to struggle this year. They're not going to be beating Arsenal. Well, they're only going to play them twice. That's every week. But they're probably not going to perform to that level. And I'll tell you who will perform to that level. The players in Arsenal, the players in Chelsea, the ones that are in the majority of the top teams that will be there at the end of the season. It will be your Ozils. It will be your Hazards. Okay, so do not panic. Those top quality players have got all season to get it right. And we saw that with Man City, really, that they kicked off with their top players performing.
Absolutely, and without Aguero, and we'll come on to Aguero later, but we Toure was another one of those players, wasn't he? £8.5 million, and I think we want to talk a little bit as well about the plethora of midfield talent at £8.5 million. There's so many players out there. If you hop around from week to week and you keep swapping them, chasing the person that scored the week before, ultimately you're going to get your fingers burnt, aren't you?
Chasing the dragon, bit of train spotting. Yeah, there is too many to choose from. Like Coutinho, he falls just below that bracket, but Ozil, Ramsey, Cazorla, I mean, one week is going to be one of those scoring, and I'm guaranteed probably the next week it'll be one of the other players within there. There's lots of players to choose from. You've got to back them.
Okay, and absolutely, I 100% agree. Obviously, a dream start for managers that had got the likes of Mahrez, obviously slightly out of that bracket, but again, Toure, fantastic start. Just want to get your thoughts on the goal. How was that first goal given to Toure?
If I've got Silva in my team, which I haven't, and he's somebody I would like it. I'd be feeling robbed right now. Because unless I'm seeing things, he got the last touch.
He definitely got the last touch.
The defender got the last touch, but it came off him before it went to the defender. So.
Yeah. Checked again on Fantasy Premier League this morning, and it looks like it's gone in as the Toure goal. So Silva given nothing, just the assist for the second goal.
That gives me time to get Silva in my team then, and not feel like I've missed some points.
Okay, so quickly on, before we move on and we talk about the tips for this week, for game week 2, let's just fully review our team for game week 1. We made the goalkeeper switch. We'd got Speroni and Hennessy, hadn't we? And then obviously they're Simon McCarthy. We're talking about Crystal Palace here, aren't we? They're Simon McCarthy. So we've put McCarthy in, and we've got Hennessy on our bench. McCarthy got us 3 points. Fairly, probably as expected.
We expect nothing from the keeper.
Didn't really expect anything. No, we've got a very, very top-heavy team. We said last week. We didn't spend as much on our defence as we did on the other areas of our team. Yet it was our defence that really came to our rescue this week. We had the assist from Azpilicueta. We had the clean sheet from Richards and a clean sheet from Klein, and bonus points to go with them too. Richards got 2 bonus points. Looked like the force of old at times, and obviously Klein got us the bonus point as well. More importantly, I think with Klein, really excited to see him getting forwards in an away game at Stoke City. I think when Liverpool play at home, and obviously they play Bournemouth this week, big things, expecting big things, and hopefully a lot of assists.
Coutinho, mate, probably.
Or Benteke, I'm thinking more so. But
fingers crossed.
The potential there is massive. But we achieved 7 from Klein, 8 from Richards, 6 from Azpilicueta. Those 3 at the back outscored our attackers, who we spent a hell of a lot of money on. Didn't get a goal anywhere else. The best we did anywhere else apart from that was Rooney with an assist, which he was probably quite fortunate to get. So Ibe, although he played well. Hazard, I did say I didn't expect him to do amazingly in that first game. Obviously, they've got Man City away next week. Depay, 3 points. Walcott was probably the biggest disappointment not to start. And again, I will apologise for doing a sneaky captain change on you there. If you subscribe to the email at fantasyfootballtips.co, you will have known, the listeners and the people reading those emails will have known what I did. But obviously I didn't tell you quickly.
Yeah, again, the betrayal runs quite deep. These 50 pieces of silver you get, Judas.
Well, the problem is we were both away. We were both on holiday, and I think we both had lack of Wi-Fi and telephone signal. So I just managed to scramble enough Wi-Fi to make that change. Well,
at one stage I did have my girlfriend on the M5 because I was driving. She was trying to do my changes for me as I was frantically thinking I might change some players, but I didn't in the end.
The desperation of an FPL addict.
Precisely. But the thing that you've mentioned then, yes, the defence got the points, and to be honest, we expect something from Klein and Azpilicueta. I'm not worried. Hazard, Depay, Walcott, Benteke, Kane, Root, they will perform. And if anything, I expect them to perform this week now. Okay, so looking on to this week then, what are we thinking in terms of our changes? Because we said we were going to mention this on air, and I absolutely 100% promise you I'm not going to make a change after today's podcast, even though it is only Tuesday. What if there's an injury?
Okay, well, if there's an injury, I'm going to let you deal with it.
Fantastic. So we'll probably have a better week this week. There isn't anything to change. We know now Aguero is fit and ready to come back. We was kind of thinking we'd have to wait a bit longer. And the minimum requirement, I think, for any manager is you have to have Aguero in for the week when they face Watford.
Yeah,
which is game week 4. I'm definitely not going to be sticking him in to face Chelsea.
No.
I mean, he's got the potential to score. He could easily score against a team like Chelsea. But I'm not going to be looking to take Benteke out to put him in when they've got Bournemouth, and I wouldn't want to drop Rooney when he's got Villa. So this week, I'm not worried about Aguero. I say we hold tight. You're a man who takes minus points, but I'm coaching you, aren't I?
Well, I have been in the past. I've done it in the past on the gamble. Usually I'd do it if there was someone that I thought I might captain for that week, so I think I'm going to make those points back. But I'm a man that has learnt from that. I've had my fingers burnt in the past on that. When I look at last season, I don't know how many I took over the season, but it was probably more than enough to warrant me gaining an extra place in the league. I'm not going to be doing it, and I'm certainly not going to be doing it in game week 2.
And on that, this is a strategy that you need to. All these panicky Petes, the ones that have already pulled the trigger on the wild card, your own team, actually, your own private team, you've already played bench boost. I'm not going to go there.
Well,
you've gone a little bit too early.
You're not going to let me defend myself.
No, because I'm in the middle of a flow.
Okay, well, it was perfectly justified. I'm just going to say that.
Strategy is always, you're only going to take those minus points when, maybe the fixtures warrant it. In this case, they don't. A double game week, when you're going to probably get your points back and you're going to cover it. Save that. Always look to be going for that double transfer. So keep one back, miss a game week, and then go for the double.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to do this week, because we're hoping next week to maybe drop someone like Memphis Depay and then bring in a cheaper mid, and then perhaps drop Kane for Aguero. That's the plan at this stage, isn't it?
Yeah. But, Aguero, not much of a pre-season. He's obviously had a lot of time off. He is injury prone. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get crocked against Chelsea.
Yeah, and, I was very, very surprised to see Sanchez come on against West Ham for 30 minutes when he's literally just come back from holiday. He's had no pre-season whatsoever. And it's got to be an injury risk, I think. And the same with Aguero, although Aguero came in slightly different circumstances yesterday. He was eased into the game and he looked a little bit fitter, I think, than Sanchez did. But absolutely, for an injury-prone player, as Aguero has been, I think it's a concern. If he starts against Chelsea, which he still might not, but if he starts against Chelsea, I would be concerned maybe for his fitness there. Certainly whether he'd last the game, I don't think he would. But, we'll wait and see. If he does last the game, I can't see him scoring more than one goal against a good Chelsea defence. It's not going to happen. History tells us that. So we're not going to bring Aguero in for game week 2. We've obviously still got the same team as we had last time, so we've got Benteke, Kane and Rooney up front. One of those players going to take the captain's armband for us this week?
Well, we've talked about it already. Liverpool v Bournemouth is the fixture that sort of
stands out, doesn't it?
Stands out for us, yeah, for our team anyway. And Benteke is our only Liverpool player with a goal-scoring threat. We've got Ibe, but I don't fancy. Yeah, I'm not looking. I'm very, very rare that I would captain a defender.
Yeah.
Apart from, I have seen on Twitter somebody out there use their triple captain.
Company?
No, Courtois.
Oh no! What?
-6.
Who was that? That person needs to. Oh my! How do you move on after that?
That's again. It's been tweeted out there. It's like self-harming. I don't know what's going on, but you do not do that to yourself. I wouldn't have even fancied that 100% clean sheet anyway, so I wouldn't have wasted that. But maybe they pressed the button by mistake like you did with your bench boost. But anyway, the next top thing we need to talk about is the upcoming transfers for those players that actually do want to make some changes this week.
You're listening to Mills and Quigliarno on the FantasyFootballTips.co podcast. Sponsored by Premier Punt. All your fantasy Premier League tips in one juicy little podcast. Get in touch at www.fantasyfootballtips.co.
Okay then, Quigliano. So you said earlier that your team is your team, isn't it? Obviously, people are going to be doing different things to what we're doing. So if you are desperate to make a change this week, if there's something in your team that's not quite right, where should people be looking this week, do you think, for game week 2?
Well, it's people like jumping on board whoever's it looking like a good buy. Some of those I think people are jumping on, like Mahrez and that. I don't long term think he's going to be the person to go in. I think if you're looking to change,
67,000 people have put Mahrez in this week.
So again, that's
top midfielder. For
anyone who's not familiar, that's how the price changes actually happen. So if everyone transfers a load of players in, there's a set point where they will
trigger a price.
They'll trigger a price rise, yeah. And that happens per 0.1 per day. Mm-hmm. So for example, if there's like 200,000, I think I'm correct in this. I'm no expert, but it would go up 0.1 one day, and then if it needed to go up in the next day, it would go up the next 0.1 as well.
That's the most it can go up in a day, yeah.
So at the back line, we'll work backwards. I'm not talking about goalkeepers. A few people might have chopped Courtois because of his red card, but I imagine you had him in there for the Chelsea clean sheet. So they've actually appealed it, so he might get rejected.
He might get it appealed, yeah.
I think Gomez. I think most people have got Klein in there, but it's all about saving cash in order to like strengthen elsewhere, I think. So if you want to cover the threat of a clean sheet at Liverpool, Gomez at 4.5 million is basically covering Klein for $1 million less.
And you actually had him in your team, didn't you, for game week 1? Or your squad, sorry.
He was in the squad. I didn't play the bench boost, so I didn't get the benefit of that. But I didn't fancy a clean sheet there. I went for Francis at Bournemouth, but that's my decisions again. I'll live and die by those.
Mm-hmm.
This case, I died. So yeah, he's 4.5 million cheaper defender, and I actually think Oxford, though I don't think he'll be in there for the whole of the season, he may fade out. At 4 million, he's probably going to be a good player that you could get in there while he's cheap to allow you to strengthen. Because for me, everyone is going to be looking to get Sanchez or Aguero back in their team now that we know they're fit. So it's all about freeing up that cash in order to do it. That's the back line. Apart from maybe, there was one I was going to talk about, is he scored, Kompany. He is a threat on corners and set pieces. So if you wanted to pump up the money there, maybe you think Chelsea didn't look that strong at the back, you might want to go there.
Yeah, maybe, if you've got someone like Azpilicueta perhaps, or Ivanovic, who didn't particularly cover himself in glory, Kompany might be a good option to downgrade to from that, or to swap to. So what about midfield then, Quigliano? Where are your thoughts there?
I'm not going to surprise you, Coutinho. I think he is due. I think this is the season that he actually pushes on from that person that is always quality. There's no doubting that he's a quality player. But does he do enough to get the points? I think this is the season that it will prove yes.
Brendan Rodgers always says that he's going to become a world-class player. We've always seen those glimmers of it, haven't we? You're saying this season you think he could blossom into that world-class player?
I think he's the main man at Liverpool now. Okay. Even despite the signings, he's the main man there now.
And he's still a little bit cheaper than all of those £8.5 million players. £2 million cheaper than David Silva. Although we're not questioning David Silva's quality in FPL, but if you need that money, he's a good option, isn't he? Good alternative.
Absolutely. I also like that Andre Ayew, the Swansea have signed.
Yeah.
You've
talked about him a lot in pre-season. Yeah, 7 million obviously came good. 37,500 people putting him in already this week. That'll probably increase by Friday.
Again, I still don't trust West Ham, but somebody who did perform well and has got a history of proving well in his other teams is Payet?
Payet or Payet, I think, 7.5 million West Ham. He was the one that shone, and if we look at the next 2 weeks for West Ham while we're talking about it, and there's an article on this on fantasyfootballtips.co, they've got Leicester this week, haven't they? At home, crucially, and then the following week in game week 3 they've got Bournemouth at home. So 2 fantastic fixtures there. So that looks good for West Ham. And then they go to Liverpool, where it starts to become a bit more difficult again. But potentially West Ham could have a very good start to the season there, couldn't they, in those three games, obviously already having the 3 points against Arsenal.
Yeah. I mean, fixtures help. Look, Sunderland have got the next 6 fixtures. If you wanted a Sunderland player, I've got Lens in my own personal team. They have got a walk in the park in terms of fantasy football. They need to actually do something with that. So that front line, a lot of people are sticking Defoe in.
Yeah. I mean, he's in my personal team, Defoe, so I was quite happy with the goal last week. But at 5.5 million, he's a snip, and he's going to score goals. He's still a quality player. It's just the fact that he's playing for Sunderland, who don't look brilliant at the moment.
Yeah. So then going on to our front line, I actually think we're all gearing up towards Aguero, but other options are in there. Pella, however you want to say it. He's had great sort of pre-season with the Europa League. He's been scoring. He scored again. I think he's somebody that needs to be in your team. And Southampton have got some strong fixtures. They're not perfect, but there's some strong fixtures for Southampton. Those are the tips that we're going for. We haven't really gone for Gary of the week or anything. That was a bit last season, wasn't it? We're going to keep that up this year.
I think we're evolving, aren't we? So we don't, we're always looking forward.
We're looking
Never
forward.
Looking back. I'm just going to throw another one in there. I've just noticed this. We're on Fantasy Premier League and we're looking at the amount of players transferred in already. The top forward of transfers in for this round, so after game week 1, before game week 2, is Kone at Everton at 5 million. 35,000 people have transferred him in, more than any other player. I know he scored a lot of points in game week 1, but he came off the bench. They've got Lukaku. He's not going to dislodge Lukaku's starting place, is he?
No.
And Martinez isn't about to go and start playing 2 up front, I don't think. So Is that ludicrous that 35,000 is the most transferred in striker so far?
Well, I mean, I will say it's your team. I've said that before. However, I would say maybe.
Bit of naivety perhaps in some people there.
Yeah, that's just jumping on the bandwagon. But maybe, we may be proved wrong.
Okay, so Quigliano, I've enjoyed the podcast today. Before we go, I do want to do a little shout out to our sponsors, Premier Punt, and they've come up with a great idea. I actually played their game last week to review it for the website. I didn't do brilliantly, but it was a free-to-play game, and I could have won £50 for first place, and there was £200 in the pot, so lots of money in there to go around for people. So take yourself over there and have a look. It's incredibly easy to play. It's very, very similar to Fantasy Premier League. But they have done an exclusive deal just for people that listen to this podcast. And what they're going to do, each week they're going to discount a player for you to buy, but they're not going to advertise it. It'll be there for everyone, but they're not going to advertise it. The only place you can find out about this cheaper player is through our podcast. This week, they're going to reduce the price of Wayne Rooney by £2 million. Now, they've got Aston Villa away from home. We've put him as vice-captain, haven't we, in our team? So we're fairly hopeful that he's going to do something there. So if you're going to premierpunt.com to play their game, if you want to go with Rooney, he's going to be £2 million cheaper than he would normally be.
So a lot of benefits there, this Premier Punt that we're getting. Getting a bit of inside scoop.
I like it, yeah. It's good.
Sort of dovetailing the two together. You're getting the tips and then you're getting a bit of inside knowledge as well.
That's it.
What a partnership.
What a partnership and what a podcast. I mean, and while we're on that actually, talk about the podcast. The podcast has grown from strength to strength, and Quigliano, we're the stalwarts, aren't we? We sometimes have our friends helping us out and coming in with a few random tips, but we are the ones. And, we've also got FPL_the source on Twitter, and if you didn't know, it's me and Quigliano that run that, isn't it? We both kind of chip in. So
anything funny is normally from me. Anything very boring, very dry, from yourself.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I'm not going to say that's always how it works, but that is the kind of the partnership that we have. However, we have over 2,000 listeners to the podcast, and we only have 750 Twitter followers. So there's something wrong there. So if you are listening to this podcast and somehow you are not following us on Twitter, get yourself, or maybe you haven't got Twitter, go to Twitter. It's great. Sign up. FPL_the source. Or maybe some people listen to this podcast twice. Maybe.
I wouldn't blame them.
I would be shocked if anyone listened to this twice.
Some mental asylums probably use this as some sort of punishment. So.
Maybe to sedate the I was going to say inmates, but that is not the correct term at all. So follow us. And obviously go to fantasyfootballtips.co. Please head over to our sponsors, premierpunt.com. It really is fantastic. It's very enjoyable, very similar to Fantasy Premier League. Looking forward to game week 2, Quigliano. The mental torture is about to begin.
Good luck with that, mate. And just remember that while you're betraying me...
I won't be betraying you this week.
Just remember...
I've made a promise and I'm not going to break that.
Nail me to the cross now. You've betrayed me. Judas Iscariot.
Look, Hazard did not perform, so no harm was done. We lost 2 points, actually.
Well, if we lose the league by 2 points... Well, Ad Coutinho is on as well. But can of worms, we've gone over this. You've apologised.
Okay, we'll see you next week.
Warning, 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 warning. 3, 2, 1. The FantasyFootballTips.co podcast with Mills and Quigliano.